As you can see here, I have some golf clubs that need some tender loving care. Now, I've already finished a couple of these, and if you noticed, I have a couple that have completely fallen apart. This one fell apart a couple of years ago. It just twisted, and I never did fix it, just took it out of the bag. That's my pitching wedge. And yesterday when I was out playing, I picked this club up, and yeah, you guessed it, same thing. Now, I've ordered some epoxy specifically for golf clubs from Amazon yesterday, and it should arrive today, so hopefully I can get those put back together, and I'll show you how I do that a little bit later on in the video. However, it'll be my first attempt, so I'll be curious to see how this works. Meanwhile, let's look at these old clubs right here. These are 30-year-old clubs, and I would not recommend doing what I'm going to do now to any great set of golf clubs. I mean, I bought these right around 1990, and I think I paid $80 for them, and they've served me well, but I thought maybe I could spruce them up a little bit while I'm sitting here waiting for Amazon to make my delivery. Let me start with the 5-iron. You can take a look at it. You can see the side here. All the paint has worn off after the 30 years, so I'm going to show you the process that I'm using to spruce these up a little bit. I have some enamel paint here, in this case black, and I'm just going to squirt it into my little makeshift paint pan here. I have just a little tester paintbrush, and what I'm going to do then is just dab paint in all those little recessed areas. This is my 5-iron, it says Northwestern, but all the paint's worn off that over the last 30 years, and I'm certain this paint will too. And then here we have Bob Murphy, an old pro golfer from years back, and I'm really dabbing the paint in there, and down here it says Classic. Bob Murphy Classics. They're classics. I wonder how many people are using 30-year-old golf clubs. And that's all there is to that. Now we're going to let that dry for a few minutes, and I'll pick up the 7-iron, and I'm going to do the same thing. And those are finished, so we're just going to let those dry for a few minutes, and then we have to go to the next step. So that looks fairly dry there. Now what we're going to do, gingerly with a little bit of steel wool, is we're just going to steel wool the top. Very, very gently. And everything that's in the recess is going to fill in with paint. And all that on the outer surface is going to disappear. Let's do Bob Murphy. See how Bob came out. Real lightly. Like I say, I wouldn't do this with a very expensive set of golf clubs, but these things are ancient. In fact, I think a true golfer would just chuckle. What are you using those old clubs for? Technology is so much better today. And there you have it. Look at that. All shined up. Looks good. Six iron. As soon as I get my order in, I'm going to try to fix these. Now, I'm still waiting for my delivery from Amazon, and that may not come until later on today. So what I'm going to do is the preliminary stuff right now. And if you notice, the first thing I did was I labeled each of the shafts. This one belongs to the pitching wedge. It's a little bit shorter than the 8 iron, so I put an 8 there so I don't get those mixed up. And the first thing you need to do is to clean out the inside, and for that I have this little half moon file. As put that in there, and if you have a little round file that would work too. We're just going to file, rough that up the best I can. I'll blow it out in a little bit. I've already worked on that one a little bit. And we'll do the same with the pitching wedge. Another thing you could do is just get a little piece of sandpaper, roll it up into a circle, and just put it in there and twist around. And get that all cleaned out inside there. The other thing you need to work on, we can pull that off, and you can pretty much see where the line right there, what it went into the head, and we need to sand that off and rough up that surface. Only to that point. Put that back on so I don't lose it. And work on the 8 iron a little bit. This one is pretty much stuck. Ah, there it comes. Once again, we only want to do the part that goes into the club head. And we'll get all this wiped down, and as soon as the epoxy comes, we'll get it put together. My order came in. I ended up getting the Brampton Profix multi-purpose epoxy. It was recommended for golf clubs, and I've never used epoxy before, so this ought to be interesting. First of all, I got my safety glasses on, and I have a block of wood covered with some wax paper, wrapped it up like a Christmas present. And the first thing I need to do is to cut and open up the 2 tubes. As you can see, they're finished. Now, for some reason, the phone camera shut off, so I have no record of me putting this together. And the 8 iron went together just perfectly. It's pretty solid. I'll be hitting some golf balls here in just a few seconds. Now the pitching wedge, that was a whole different story. Watch this. And now to the 9-iron. I'm sorry, to the pitching wedge. Once more, we're going to squeeze out a liberal amount. And we're going to wipe off the excess here and cork it up. Hopefully it'll last for another day. And we're going to use a different stick, and we're going to mix. And we're going to we got the hosel all cleaned out, and once again we're going to put a liberal amount with a rounded stick right down in there into the hosel, and make sure that it's covered 360. And we're going to put some on the shaft. Doesn't look like the shaft was in there all that far, but that's exactly the way it was. And I'm going to put some on the end, because I think that's where it broke off. And once again, I'm going to put that in there. Twist it nice and tight. That's not working. That's not working. What's going on here? That did not work out exactly the way that I had intended it to. Apparently, when I went to put in the shaft into the pitching wedge, I did not realize that the shaft actually had some of the old epoxy in it. So every time I pushed it in, the air pressure was pushing it back out. I learned a very valuable science lesson there. So what I had to do very quickly was, I have a hand drill. I ended up having to drill a hole through that old epoxy into the shaft, so that the air, when I pushed it in, had some place to go and wasn't pushing out the wasn't pushing it out of the hosel. Very valuable lesson. So if you're repairing a golf club and you notice that there's epoxy in the shaft, you need to drill that out first. It sure would save a whole lot of time, effort, and mess. The golf clubs now are sitting in a spot on my other workbench, and they will be there until tomorrow, where I'll go try and hit a golf ball with them and see if this $8.40 that I spent was actually worth it. Whole lot less expensive than buying a couple new golf clubs.